Birmingham, Alabama.
Yep.
Does not travel to a ton of events, but his ratio of events played into top 8s is really impressive, and almost always playing control decks, be it standard, be it legacy. Likes to sit there, play his blue lands and some card drawing spells and win somewhere down the line. This time with Pearl Lake Ancient and a blue-black control shell.
So it'll be a blue-black control mirror, something that we have not seen very much of. So settle in, get yourself a drink. We're going to be here a little while.
And the Dismal Backwater, a giveaway of the mirror match, because not a lot of decks are playing that one.
Fluted Delta here for Yim. A Temple of Malady there for Talon. I'll play that and do a little scry action.
So, got anything going on, or is that just a black scry land?
He just wants another black scry land. He's got 4 Temple of Deceit. It's a Temple of Mystery and a Temple of Malady. So 6 temples in his build.
Okay.
Swamp, Thoughtseize. It's an Ashiok. Perilous Vault, Dig Through Time, Bile Blight, Urborg, and Polluted Delta.
So the most threatening cards in this hand obviously are the Ashiok and the Dig Through Time. The removal spells do not matter that much in the mirror match.
You see Carrin's grip, and Yim's going to write it down and then select a card from it. You'll note here that Carrin has Ashiok in his deck, 4 of them, where Yim, unsurprisingly, has 0, as he is not a fan of that kind of card.
This is much, much closer to the Andrew Cuneo style of blue-black control. No Ashioks in the list, not trying to put random permanents in play that can be hit by Hero's Downfalls and Banishing Lights.
And there's Ashiok right now. So Yim had the option. Well, he took the first one. There was a top-decked one that actually...
This is the worst-case scenario, is what they call this one.
It's causing the problem. And it's going to change the way that he has to play the game now. You see 3 cards are going to be turned over, 2 lands and a Bile Blight. So it was timely. And even though, a lot of players, the camps are split, right? There's the Pantheon, Andrew Cuneo school of thought where Ashiok is terrible. There's the Adrian Sullivan school of thought the Ashiok is very good. Both players have had success with the decks. But one thing you can be sure is it can cause a lot of trouble in the mirror.
Yeah, if it gets into play and goes unchecked, it's very powerful. The other side of it is that it does give your opponent a use for their hero's downfalls that otherwise wouldn't have targets. So it's not even straight upside in the mirror match.
See what this is going to be, Perilous Vault. Shields are down. I think Yim does have a copy of Hero's Downfall, so he'll be able to kill that Ashiok, it looks like. Quick untap and draw here from Chihui. Bloodstained Mire. There is an Urborg in play, so both players have plenty of black mana. Just deciding what he wants to do here is Yim.
Now, there's the option of Heroes Downfalling right now, but he also has Disdainful Stroke in hand. I think he wants to keep his shields up to fight over Dig Through Time.
Sure.
He doesn't really care too much about getting a couple cards milled over with Ashiok.
I guess Heroes Downfall right now. I mean, it's a little scary, right? Because, look, it's unlikely that both Pearl Ancients are hit, but that's something that could happen.
Yes.
And if that happens, he doesn't have a way to win the game.
I mean, you could try to deck him.
Well.
Although with Ashiok in the other deck, that's probably pretty hard
It's pretty tough, right?
Pretty tough.
Don't even know if you want it to come down to that. Here's a bunch of mana. I think it's going to be a main phase Dig Through Time. The fear that Chihui had. No guarantee of that, tapping 5 mana, but it looks like it will be a dig, and it is.
So a couple of fortuitous draws thus far for Talon here. Ripped the Ashiok after the first one got Thoughtseized away. Ripped an untapped land this turn to be able to cast the Dig Through Time. And Chihui getting punished a little bit here for electing to Hero's Downfall right now instead of waiting and sitting on the Disdainful Stroke.
Well, it's not the best Dig Through Time I've ever seen. Dissolve is far and away the best card. There were a lot of lands, a Murderous Cut, and then a copy of Perilous Vault. So I imagine we'll see Dissolve and then a land. If it can be a temple, I think you'd want to take it, and I think that's exactly what Carrin does take. It's a Temple of Deceit. So we're going to head back Yim's way.
Yeah, as you mentioned, not really what I was looking for there.
No 5th land, so Chihui is the first one to miss a land drop in the matchup. There's a temple. Take a look at the top. And the thing about these blue-black control decks, however, is they are filled with removal spells.
Yes, but Talon seems like he's even further down that road. I mean, a couple main deck Drown in Sorrows as well.
Copy of Despise here. See Chihui, Jian, Perilous Vault, 2 Disdainful Strokes, Dig Through Time, Heroes Downfall, and a Bile Blight. So Yim has the better cards as far as reactive permission is concerned.
Definitely. This hand's got pretty much everything covered except for the one Pearl Lake Ancient that's in Talon's list. So that's the big risk right now. And it's sort of the new Aetherling insofar as once it's resolved, the control decks they can kind of try to bob and weave around it a little bit, but there's no getting it off the table.
Still no land. Steven says draw and pass. Drown in Sorrow. Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Oh, yeah. Give me that scry.
Well, he just drew a Pearl Lake Ancient, so he's got, well, at this point, really wants to dig for the land that he needs.
Yep. And of course, Pearl Lake Ancient can't be countered. So we're going to have to play a very weird removal-based game around it. Discard Bioblade, pass the turn back. Take a draw. Ashiok. We're going to go reaching. There's your 3 mana. An attempt at the Nightmare Weaver. It's in. An island, a vault, and a treasure cruise will be exiled. That's a hero's downfall. This might be a counterspell.
Nope, I wouldn't fight over this. I mean, now that Talon has the Pearl Lake Ancient, he doesn't really need to worry about Ashiok.
That's the only card that matters here, I think, is the Pearl Lake. It's the Mirror Breaker. Draw. Looks like it may have been a copy of Dissolve. Or excuse me, a copy of Despise. Already has a Dissolve in his hand, so there is Despise. Chihuahua will show him 2 copies of Dissolve, 2 Disdainful Strokes. Dig, a Downfall, and a Vault. He needs lands. He's got plenty of good spells.
And Chihuahua not willing just had to try to cast that Dig Through Time. It's too valuable for him. And he's either going to draw lands or not and discard to hand size. And both of these things help get the Dig Through Time online.
He's got plenty of crummy cards to discard, too. Jace's Ingenuity to draw. It seems rather unlikely that one will resolve just because Chihuahua does have 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke in his hand, so.
If I were Talon, I wouldn't even cast it. If Chihuahua's going to discard to hand size, you might as well let him just do that.
Yep. It's about that time. There goes, yep, Dig Through Time's gone. In a moment. Looks like Talon's considering casting Jason's Ingenuity right now, and I'm with you. I wouldn't want to cast it.
There's nothing to be gained here.
And it looks like he comes to that conclusion. Chihuahua going to discard Hero's Downfall. Dismal Backwater going to come into play. Time to draw. Ah, we did it, sort of.
That's a swamp.
Yep, since there is no Borg in play. There's an actual swamp. Chihuahua going to sacrifice his Evolving Wilds, go dig up a land, probably an island, absolutely. But Pearl Lake Ancient is going to cause some real trouble this game. Very tough card for his deck to beat. Take a draw. Does make you wonder how much players have actually tested the blue-black mirror. We don't see the deck all that much.
Well, Pearl Lake is this really weird breaker in the matchup because neither deck can really do anything about it. They can buy time against it, but once it's in play, you kind of need your own.
There's Dig. A bunch of manas. Jason Ingenuity.
Jason Bennett. Your winner box
Will we have a fight over this one?
Looks
Looks like we will. Pluto Delta is going to get
Meet your judge over by the side
sacrificed, maybe?
Also, Commander Pod number 3, your event is
Yes.
Commander Pod number 3. Come up and meet your
In
judge
response,
by
I like this play a lot.
Yeah, great sequencing.
Yeah. While searching for an island with that on the stack, dissolve your Dig Through Time. Scry, top card to the bottom. Now my Jason's Ingenuity is on the stack, but I don't think he cares about resolving that all that much. Doesn't really need to.
If it happens, great, and if not,
He's
not
got,
a big
he's,
issue.
he's got his prize, right? He's got the card that he wants.
yeah.
That's the Pearl Lake Ancient. There's Disdainful Stroke. But now we're going to head back Carrin's way. Carrin will draw. Must be a Pluto Delta. That's coming in. He doesn't have a lot of cards left as far as, depth is concerned. He's only got 3 cards in his hand, but he has his best card in the matchup in his hand in Pearl Lake Ancient.
Yeah, and if Chihuahua has no analog, no copy of his own, it doesn't really matter how ahead he is on cards.
Yep.
The game suddenly becomes about this.
So there's the problematic 6-7. It's attacking now. Looks like he may be working on something in his graveyard here. Maybe it's time to dig. Hope it's time for it to resolve.
Though it's possible at this point, Talon can make the fight over mana rather than card quality and can say, yeah, your dig through time is resolved and I'm going to fight you over the cards of substance you have at this point.
Yeah.
Though it's not clear there really is anything that qualifies. The only card that might matter here is Chihoi's own copy of Pearl Lake Ancient, and if that's the case, dig through time seems like a fine card to fight over.
Jace's Ingenuity, the draw. Pearl Lake Ancient does not take much time to close a game out, that's for sure. There's Ingenuity. Thumbs up. 1 and 2 and 3. Radiant Fountain among the cards found. Island will be played here by Yim. He'll pass the turn back. Carrin gonna draw. Copy of Bile-Blight in for 6 more. His hand is pretty bad, all things considered. He's got a Perilous Vault and 2 Bile-Blights, but he's just trying to ride the Leviathan to victory.
Yep.
That's
and
it.
Chio can buy some time here with removal spells and such, but
Radiant Fountain can mess up the math a little bit, I suppose. I think a Dissolve is the draw. Couple of manas. Looks like some sort of removal spell being cast here by Yim, just trying to figure out how he wants to tap for it. It's a Murderous Cut. Refusal to delve. Gonna pay full price for that thing. Now you get to play this fun game of pick up the lands, float the mana, maybe recast a spell. How do you go about bobbing and weaving with this thing is the question. And that's what Carrin's got to figure out. Looks like he's gonna float 7, pick this up. Now he's got to pay 3 lands. He's got to pick up 3 lands to do that.
see if Chihoi can play over the top of this or if he just lets this happen.
Yeah. That's where things get really interesting because, you know, this is inevitably going to happen. You can't counter it, of course. The card's uncounterable. But you can't just try to keep killing it.
Which is not a long-term solution until Chihoi finds his own copy. At that point, he can start really capitalizing on how many extra cards he's up, because he can win inside of combat with prowess triggers.
Carrin does replay his land for the turn, which is a temple. That's one of the neat interactions with Pearl Lake Ancient in this deck, is the lands actually do generate a little bit of value. And in combination with Pearl Lake Ancient, you can get even more. You've got temples, as here's a Hero's Downfall going after that. You've also got Dismal Backwater for a little life gain, Radiant Fountain, depending on how you do build your deck. So get a little work done with those lands.
I like those little pieces of synergy too. It shows how much testing's gone on with a list like that, where you have the one Radiant Fountain. You don't come to that conclusion randomly if you can afford. Can you afford 2? Can you really afford 0? It's a nice value land. Can do some really good work with Pearl Lake Ancient in certain spots. And it's not like you throw in 1 at random.
Now it's time for Carrin to do a little bit of discarding. So Pearl Lake Ancient's in hand. He's down to 4 lands, so he's kind of unwound some things here.
Chihoi's bought himself a lot of time here by setting up multiple removal spells.
Yep. I do find it to be the most important card in the matchup, Pearl Lake Ancient. I mean, it's the game breaker, of course. You know, because Ashiok can be killed via Hero's Downfall and some other things. It's a dig through time now. He's found a Pearl Lake Ancient. Dig, a Dissolve, a Bile-Blight, Murderous Cut, Dismal Backwater, another removal spell.
Dissolve and Pearl Lake Ancient is a pretty juicy pair to get.
Doesn't seem bad.
But it looks like he's passing on the Ancient.
A touch surprising. Maybe he has one in his hand that we don't know about. Does play 2 in his deck versus Carrin's 1. There's a temple. Take a look at the top. Looks like he's going to leave it there. Pass it back. Carrin will draw. That's a land. temple, bottom, back Chihoi's way. So that's line number 5 there for Carrin. He's working his way back to 7 of them.
This has really been an impressive game here by Chihoi. He was discarding to hand size.
Yeah.
He was behind quite a bit on lands. He's facing down Pearl Lake Ancient. Not that he's quite out of the woods with that yet, but
hey, he looks comfortable in these control matchups. You know, this is the kind of deck that he always plays. And he looks pretty comfortable. He never, you know, there was no panic.
yeah,
That's for sure when the Pearl Lake came down, even though, again, it is kind of the game breaker in this mirror. It contorts the way that you get to play the game. Now the trick is just figuring out how to win it for either player. There's ingenuity. He needs to know how many cards are left in his deck. I think that's the important thing, too.
got hit with Ashiok a couple times.
Yep.
Here he's drawn some cards.
Mill 3 may not seem like much, but given how these games play out, and how there's just a lot of removal in the Pearl Lake Ancient, which, you know, is the kind of the sub game, that's really the only cards that matter outside of, you know, the size of your deck. There's a Thoughtseize.
Beautiful.
Wow. Yep.
I mean, Chihoi has done, got to Stone Rain Talon basically 6 times, and now gets to strip the Ancient anyway.
Now we're going to have a fight over this, you have to imagine, because if he gets to strip the Ancient, it's very hard for Talon to win. Chihoi going to fight back. Dissolve your Dissolve. Scry. Top card to the bottom. Take a look. Pearl Lake Ancient, I have a feeling you're going to the graveyard. And now here's the big issue at hand. You take a look at Talon's deck list. Well, what does he have now? Well, he's only got 1 Pearl Lake Ancient, where Chihoi has 2, so that's gone. He has the Liliana Vest, which can, you know, tutor up some stuff, but what can he tutor up?
Just 2 Ashioks. So I think that's all he has left at this point.
Yeah, he plays 4 and 2 are gone. And can Ashiok win the game on its own? I think that's the question.
And maybe I start thinking about this stuff a little bit sooner than I should, but I think that Talon...
Somebody wants to concede already, don't they?
Well, it's... the odds that Talon is able to win from here is extremely low, in my opinion.
I think so.
And the clock is definitely an issue.
So here's what's interesting, right? Let's say that Chihoi, you're playing against him, he thought this is your Pearl Lake Ancient, and you just kind of think for a little bit and then concede the game. You are giving away a lot of information there.
Yes.
You're basically saying, without saying, I have 1 Pearl Lake Ancient, you have found a way to kill it by Thoughtseizing it, and I don't have another way to win the game. And Chihoi might be able to pick up on that for the next games. However, I'm kind of with you in the aspect of, I don't think that Talon can actually win the game 1 now.
Well, he has his 2 copies of Ashiok and the Liliana left against the deck with multiple copies of Perilous Vault, multiple copies of Hero's Downfall, a bunch of counter spells with a full hand.
It doesn't look great. His additional copy of Pearl Lake Ancient is in the sideboard. But Carrin will play on. They'll play Dismal Backwater, gain a little bit of life, and pass the turn back over to Yim. You know, one thing that's really telling, too, is here's another copy of Dig Through Time, is that Chihoi had the opportunity to take a Pearl Lake Ancient.
Not even interested.
Not at all.
I think he took Dissolve plus Thoughtseize out of that stack. Now you can see why.
Yeah, he had a plan the entire time. And this just comes from, one, he's playing the exact same deck. He's playing against, he's in the mirror, so he kind of knows what's important there, but he's just very skilled at playing these control matchups. He knows what's important, and in a world where you or I would have searched for Pearl Lake Ancient and tried to maybe change the game that way, he had no interest in that, and it's still in his deck. He'll draw a card.
He'll get to that eventually if it comes down to it.
Yep. There's a temple. And with how this deck goes through itself, with digs and Jace's Ingenuity and temples, it's not very hard for it to get there. Here's the Thoughtseize. There goes the Silence of Believers. Pass the turn back. Hand is not very good for Carrin right now.
And to your point before about if you concede right here, you're giving away information that you've only got the 1 Pearl Lake. When you have the second one in the sideboard, that's actually kind of a sweet thing to run. Because if Chihoi plays, assuming that you've only got the 1 when you really have the second one, that could come up.
That's true. Well, there's his Pearl Lake Ancient. He's going to blow the Perilous Vault. Chihoi's going to pick up a couple of lands here. Looks like a backwater along with Radiant Fountain and a temple. So we're going to pick this up. Perilous Vault will not kill that. Chihoi says, my turn? The answer is yes. He's at 4. Doesn't feel like it, though. Another Pearl Link drawn. There's a fountain back up to 6. See, now I'm watching this deck and I want to play it.
You want to play blue-black now?
Sort of. All right, I'm over it. It's too hard. It's too hard. I like having a safety net of a card like Sphinx's Revelation. This deck doesn't have that.
You got to work.
Oh, yeah, for everything.
There's no free wins.
No. Every game is a game of inches. There's no knocking the wind out of someone with a Revelation in this deck. Dig Through Time is the closest you'll get, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, with Revelation, you get all 7.
Yeah.
You only get the best 2.
Rev and Rev, they often concede. Those days are over. Dig and a Dig doesn't even draw concessions. Temple of Mystery. You can put the top card on the bottom, pass the turn back. Carrin's only spell in his hand as a copy of Bile Blight. Another Pearl Ancient now. He's looking to finish her up. Yim will draw. Gonna play some spells in the main phase, trigger prowess, are we? Yes. There's a Bile Blight. Counter that. And we are gonna move on to game number 2. Chihui Yim up a game here over Talon and Carrin in the blue-black control mirror as we turn our attention to the sideboard. I've got Talons in front of me. We talked about the Pearl Ancient that's in the board. He's got that, along with 2 negates, 3 copies of Thoughtseize, 2 Drown in Sorrow, 3 Disdainful Stroke, and then 4 copies of Jurabai Merc Lurker. You can tell from his main deck, he's geared towards beating aggressive creature decks.
And now the question is, how much does he get to sideboard out for free in this matchup, basically? The Silence of the Believers, the 2 copies of Drown in Sorrow, the 2 Despises, the 4 Bile Blights, all are easy cuts. So we'll definitely see the 3 Thoughtseizes, the 2 negates, the 1 Pearl Lake Ancient, and the 3 copy of Disdainful Stroke. So I guess he's got enough easy cuts here where he can bring in his 9 quality sideboard cards, the Disdainful Strokes, the Thoughtseizes, the negate, and the 2nd copy of Pearl Lake Ancient. Just basically cut some creature removal out.
What do you got on the other side?
A Freakish Cure, 4 Drown in Sorrow, 3 negate, a Thoughtseize, 4 copies of the Merc Lurker, and 2 Grind Clocks. So 3 negates, a Thoughtseize, 2 Grind Clocks seem like easy inclusions, again, at the expense of some of the creature removal.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a game that's kind of like what we just saw, which is it's all based around Pearl Lake Ancient, right?
Yeah, although post-board, maybe that changes a little bit. Players have access to more copies of Thoughtseize, so it's not as safe in your hands as it used to be. And there's other things that can come up here, like the 2 Grind Clocks in Chihuahua's sideboard could really change the way the matchup plays out.
Yeah, and the inability for maybe Talon to get them off the table is I expect to see Perilous Vaults go away.
Yeah, I could see leaving in 1 or 2 as an insurance policy in case there's Planeswalkers, and they're not the worst card to have access to in Pearl Lake Ancient battles or whatever, but it is possible he has very few outs to Grind Clock if it sneaks into play.
Well, we talked about Black Friday and the special that Star City Games has going on until November 30th, but after that, got a holiday special coming up where there are going to be new deals every day.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've paid attention to the website when these have been running before, but we periodically go through these stretches where every week or so there's new content added for sale. So make sure to be checking back at starcitygames.com. New items are added 11 a.m. Monday through Friday of November 28th to the 31st. So that's a long time. A lot of stuff will go up on the website. Be cool stuff.
Get your Christmas shopping in.
Yep, for all the gamers that you know that want some Magic cards or dice bags or sleeves or whatever.
Huh?
Cardboard crack books.
It's all there.
It's all available, starcitygames.com.
It's going to be a fun sale. We've done this sort of stuff before, the back-to-school special and, spring break type stuff, and now it is holiday season, so it's that time of the year. It's crazy to think about. We're already here. Thanksgiving is in the books, and before we know it, there'll be snow falling. Hopefully there's no snow in Portland next weekend, or I've heard rumors of snow happening in Seattle yesterday.
Doesn't that cause the city to shut down?
Yes. Yes, it does. Which you should be laughing because it's embarrassing.
It's pretty rough. I mean, I live in San Diego, and you should see what happens when there's a little bit of rain. It's a free-for-all.
I'm shaking my head right now because I'm thinking about, okay, if I get back on Monday and there's snow on the ground, this is a disaster. Not for me personally, because I know how to drive in the snow. I'm from Ohio. But the people on the road, it's just not going to be good.
And Seattle's a pretty hilly city, too, right?
Yeah, very hilly.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Sport up your windows. Make sure that you go to the grocery store, stock up, and don't leave your house.
Yeah, don't leave. Don't leave. I still remember the first year I moved there. I'm Red Robin twice in the show already. I was working at the Red Robin, and my boss called me and said, hey, can you come in? I lived on a hill at the time. He said, hey, can you come in? And I was like, I guess. Why? He said, 6 people called off. I said, 6? He said, yeah, they can't get out of their house. there was maybe, maybe 3 inches of snow, maybe. I'm just like, all right, I guess. So I get in the old car, drive down. You know, I work, maybe 7 guests come in over my 5-hour shift. And then I clean it up, close it, leave, Temple to start things off. And I'm driving home, and I'm just trying to drive up a hill, and the car just can't get up. And at this point, I realized, oh, they don't have ice trucks here.
No.
Yeah, they just don't, that's just not a thing. So there's just no getting up. And so I had to park it like very close to the bottom of the hill and just walk all the way up, all the way through the development I lived in. So, oh no.
Oh yeah, no counterspell mana available. I don't believe you got stubborn denial in your deck. Let's go to work.
We have a grind clock strategy. You want to mill me? I'll mill you. Oh, it's a mill fest now. That's what it's all about now. Grind clock's going to tick on up. We're going to turn over a couple of cards here from Ashiok. You see Talon going to take a look at grind clock. We will too. Typically I would use an adjective like the powerful artifact. I don't know if that's actually true, but it's powerful right now.
Yes. It has a specific role.
This kind of card is what makes Magic just, you know, the best game. This kind of narrow application. And Chiho casts the opponent's just like, oh no. Oh, now we're going beatdowns.
Oh, little offense defense.
Keep that Ashiok in check. Bet she didn't see this coming.
And this is another part of this, as you mentioned before, most people just cut their creature removal. So we've seen Archangel Thune last season come in all the time in blue-white mirror matches when it looks like nonsense. And this is sort of the same thing.
I did not expect to see the offense-defense approach here from the Merc Lurker. There it is. Rawr. Look at that leech with the beats. This one's to make sure you don't lose to the aggro decks.
But in this sort of matchup, you know, you expect very little creature removal to be there post-board.
Those are the first cards that go. Your Bile Blights of the world, other stuff. Yeah, get that out of my deck. Doesn't do anything. Drown in Sorrow, which Talon has in his main deck, that's gone. Not that it would kill it anyway, but
a role historically been filled by Dan way back in the day. And you see this sort of swap happen in blue mirror matches pretty frequently.
Dan, one of my favorite Magic cards. Dissolve's going to show you a hand Despise will show you a hand of Dissolve along with Dig Through Time and a couple of lands. But good old Dan. That's the 4/1 fish?
Oh, yeah. Island Home.
How does Island Home work again?
It can only go beatdowns if they have an island, and if you don't have an island, it dies.
It just dies, just straight up. Dan can't attack unless defending player controls an island, and then whenever you control no islands, bye-bye Dan. 2 mana 4/1.
Creature dash fish.
Yeah, giant fish about to eat those boats. That's pretty great. Now he's just got to keep Ashiok in check, which the Merc Lurker's actually doing a nice job of while the grind clock is just going to tick on up.
As long as Talon never flips over a Merc Lurker from Chihoya's deck, the Ashiok's not really doing all that much.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it is turning over 3 cards at a time, but the grind clock can do more than that. Temple of Mystery, the draw.
Grind clock versus Ashiok is sort of a tortoise and the hare kind of thing.
Sure.
Ashiok starts out in the lead, but eventually slow and steady grind clock catches up.
The fun thing to see is when does the clock stop ticking?
This is, I've brought this up before. It's a math puzzle that you can figure out, but no one bothers.
Yeah, I think the only person who would know is he's going to mill 5 is Matthias. That's where I'd have to draw him in.
Yeah.
Say, hey, Matthias, when are you supposed to stop ticking? Matthias would know the math. I am sure of that.
Yeah, he wouldn't even have to count out the player's decks. He could just look down and...
He would be positive on what you're supposed to do. So the clock is going to work now on Carrin's deck, but it looks like he's casting a spell. What spell do we have? Now, one thing we haven't even noticed, all kidding aside, is Chihoya, as far as playing lands is concerned, nope. He still has 4 lands in play.
It's the same story that we saw last game, too.
That means his hand is full of a bunch of action. And there's a disdainful stroke on the Dig Through Time. And that's going to get the counterspell. So counterspell's going to win that war. 7 mana. Carrin will draw. Dismal Backwater. Ashiok up again. A land, a dig through time, a land. Bang, 22.
Probably will not come down to that.
I think his life total is his deck this game. I think that was a copy of Jace's Ingenuity. Not great. Now we're going to count our own deck, so. Both players are going to count, and that means we'll get the count since now it'll be public information.
Well, it's public the whole time. Just someone has to
you know
bother
what?
to look.
Yeah, you don't want to tip him off, you know?
Yeah.
The Millstone Mirror. That's where we are now. Ah. That's you. He's trying to figure out how to move forward. Wow, that's a big difference. Chihoy has 27, where Talon has 40 cards. Well done.
But the race still favors Chihoy right now.
I think the race
That's
favors
nine,
the clock.
It's 9 activations of Ashiok against 8 activations of Grind Clock.
Ah, just how he drew it up.
Although it's a little different because there's draw steps and maybe card drawing spells get thrown in there. But
Yep. 3 more cards go away.
like I said, the tortoise and the hare.
We'll see how good. We'll see.
Doesn't
how
matter
good.
who's in the front at the beginning of the race. It matters who's in front at the end of the race.
Well, somebody brought in a Merc Lurker of their own. Look at these two. A little game of one-upsmanship. Chihoy perhaps with a removal spell here? Nope. Oh my goodness. Dissolve your Merc Lurker has been announced.
He's discarding a hand size anyway, so why
Yeah.
not?
You don't see this one very often.
Yeah, he's just going to, and Talon's spending mana on his own turn, so Chihoy's going to get to untap.
Yeah.
It's a...
Chihoy left it on top. I would bet a significant amount that's a 5th land myself. Grind Clock's going to go up to 6. We'll see. Looks like it was a land. Like an Urborg, yeah. 2 mana, 3 mana. Downfall? Yep. Dissolve says no. Chihoy fights back with a negate. Does Talon have a counterspell? You get this Ashiok off the table, winning's gonna be pretty simple from there.
Well, he has a counterspell, just not the right one.
Yeah, Disdainful Stroke, you can see it.
It's another thing that I really like about the way that Chihoy's deck is set up post-board here with these Merc Lurkers and Grind Clocks. Really takes the wind out of the sails of Disdainful Stroke.
Yeah.
Maybe it fights some card drawing or whatever, but Chihoy's able to get win conditions under the table, and that counterspell does not really do very much.
Pluto Delta going to get sacrificed. He might be digging through time here in just a moment.
That's one less card.
Yes, thinning it out. Every card does count.
It's true.
You're staring down a Grind Clock on 6. I don't know whose idea this was with Grind Clock. I don't know if it was Ollie last week. That was the first time I saw it in the blue-black sideboard. Or somebody on the old Magic Online. Who knows? But very smart. Very smart.
Sneaking in a win condition. I mean, back in... I played at a time in Standard where it was literally Millstone that people brought in to this effect.
Yeah, a lot of people don't remember that.
And Grind Clock's quite a bit more efficient than Millstone.
Yeah. Those were the days. That's when I was coming up. Blue-white control was milling you out.
I mean, Millstone is a slow burn.
It's a tough way to go. It's a tough way to go. I've been milled out before. 4, 5, and 6. Ashiok Thoughtseize, a negate over there. All cards that are turned over from the Grind Clock. Now Dig Through Time is going to resolve. So Talon will get to take a look at the top 7 cards. Pick 2 of them, of course. Pearl Lake Ancient among them. That'll make things a little more interesting.
Though, Pearl Lake might be just way too slow against Grind Clock plus Chump Blocker plus random removal spells thrown in there.
We might even see the old Merc Lurker come in and get a little lifelink soon.
Oh, yeah. Way ahead of you.
Yeah. Dial that up. Is there anything the Merc Lurker can't do?
It is, I mean, it is doing everything right now.
Basically the slap chop out there. 2 cards added.
These games are pretty heartening These games are pretty hardening when you're on Chihoi's side of the table, which is, you know, he's caught some bad breaks in this game, you know, and the previous game too, he's missing land drops. But it still seems between knowing control mirror matches and the structure of his deck, he's got an edge here.
He'll draw a card.
They're the best wins. When you catch the bad side of it in a mirror match, but you're still ahead,
Yeah.
that feels great.
It's actually just a general understanding of what he's trying to accomplish the entire time. See all those cards that are removed from Ashiok. Talon's got about 30 cards left in his deck now. Chihoi's going to count his deck again. A little nervous, understandably so.
I would imagine Grind Clock still has the edge at this point.
I would think so, yeah. Chihoi down to 19 cards. Ay, ay, ay. Get another old Murky. Knock that Ashiok back down.
This is some employee of the month action here out of the Merc Lurker. I mean, it is doing everything.
It gets the park up front. Turn over 3 cards. Grindy for 6. See, Chihoi's trying to figure out the math problem now. Liliana Vest and Ashiok among those cards.
Well, it kind of doesn't matter what the math problem is because Chihoi's, it is what it is from his side of the table.
Yeah. I don't think that he's allowed to anymore just like take up Grind Clock.
Yeah, he has to activate.
I think he's stuck just activating every time now. Ashiok's going to go back down. Talon will draw a card. It's a mill race. Ooh, got a Grind Clock. It's probably pretty important. Get you. The standard format's so boring.
Well, if it was all Grind Clock mirrors, that would be pretty bad. But
I think this is awesome.
This is, if one game out of every 50 or 100 is like this, that's charming.
I'm just so tired of Siege Rhinos, man.
We haven't seen a Siege Rhino today.
That's correct.
Or we caught him once, I think.
Yeah. The count. It's even lower. There's the count to the other side. We'll get those numbers. Tortoise in the hair. You said it. We'll see if it's true.
And it's weird because Talon has had this Pearl Lake Ancient in his hand. Talon's had this Pearl Lake Ancient in his hand the whole time. And has not made a move to put the Pearl Lake Ancient into play to try to just eat this Merkler.
Yeah, not once. Not once. Talon has 15. Chihoi has 8. 15 minus 6 is 9, draw step 8. 6 is 2, draw step 1. 8 minus 3 is 5, draw step 4, 1, 0. It's close.
I think Talon is slightly ahead right now.
I think so.
Talon can also play another copy of Ashiok, potentially, which speeds it up.
Yep.
Chihoe cannot do the same thing with Grind Clock.
There go 6 cards. Draw a card.
Oh, never. I mean, if we were on Talon's turn, so now he's on 9 going to 3.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
Yeah.
Oh, he was at 15. So, yeah, 15. Yeah, 9. Let's see what this is going to be. Perilous Vault. Countered. Get you. Or at least try to get you. Pause. Pearl Lake Ancient. Now that we know the coast is clear. Or at least we assume as much.
Man. Merkler finally down.
Fired. No longer employee of the month. Take it up. 3 cards gone. And now we're coming at you both ways. I'd love to be able to do that thing 6. Here's a Dismal Backwater. Neither player can afford to cast a card like Dig Through Time here. Get you for 6.
No, we're past card drawing spell territory here.
There goes 6 cards. Untap, draw, get you for 6. Turn over the rest of your cards. That's going to do it. Chihoi Yim with the power of the Grind Clock gets the job done. He moves on to 5-1, winning the Blue-Black Control Mirror.
Very impressive stuff. Like I said, it's always great to watch a match where someone's catching the bad end of it in a mirror match, and the differences in the deck construction. The Ashioks for Talon were pretty bad game one. They just ended up eating Heroes